This is the best boss build in Dig, and I'm going to be showing you all how to get all of it. So for this boss build, we of course wanted to do as much damage to bosses as possible, and that is what I did. So first off, before we even look at the charms, we want to look at our shovels. So we have our shovels right here. If you hover over the shovel, it will show you how much boss damage it does, such as the wooden shovel does 5 boss damage, while this one does 75. And different shovels do different amount of damage, and also the better the shovel is doesn't mean the more boss damage it does. Such as the Starfire shovel right here, it's the best shovel in the game, but it only does 60 boss damage while this one does 75. So I'm gonna be showing y'all which ones are the best. So first off, the shovels that do the most boss damage are actually the ones that you get from the bosses, such as this one right here. This is the one that we got from the Claw King boss, and it does 35 boss damage, which isn't too good. But then if you defeat other bosses such as the Candlelight boss, this one does 45 boss damage. And then if you defeat the Spider boss, this one does 80 boss damage, which this is the one that I would recommend. And then if we defeat the Basilisk boss, we get this right here that does 75 boss damage. But you do need to unlock the fairy to even get there. But the shovel that I would recommend getting, which is still pretty easy to get, is this one here, the Arachnid shovel. This one does 80 boss damage, and you get this by defeating the Spider boss, which you defeat the Spider boss in Cinder Cavern. But to even spawn in the boss, you actually have to go in the combat guild over here, which if you don't know where the combat guild is, it's like right next to Verdant Vale. So right in this area, go ahead and walk in, and you need to buy the boss spawner. So it does cost 50,000. It is pretty pricey, but go ahead and buy the boss spawner, and then head over to Cinder Cavern. So Cinder Cavern is located right here, right next to Fernhill Forest. So go down there because we need to defeat the Spider boss. Also, the Spider boss is actually a little bit more difficult than other bosses, but overall it's not too bad. But we do want to defeat the Spider boss and get MVP, because if you get MVP, you're more likely to get the shovel, which is what we want. But anyway, go ahead and head all the way down, go down the elevator, which costs $1,000. So go over here, talk to this dude, buy the ticket for $1,000, and then go ahead and step in. And also another reason why we want this shovel right here is because it can actually dig in rock. Like for some of the other boss shovels, they can't. So we can actually use this to defeat the Multi-Monstrosity boss. Currently, the Multi-Monstrosity boss is the best boss in the game, so we do need a good shovel for it. So you can get this one right here, but the thing is, this one actually can't dig in the rock inside the volcano. Like I tried it before. I tried defeating the Multi-Monstrosity with this shovel right here, but it actually can't dig into the ground, so it is not good. So we want this shovel right here because it does more boss damage, and it can also dig in any ground, including the rock inside the volcano, so it can damage the Multi-Monstrosity boss. And there we go, we just went down the elevator. So go ahead and spawn in your car, and basically to get to the spider cave, we just want to follow the webs. So go ahead and go straight, and then we're gonna take the first left up here. So right next to like this little stack right here, go ahead and take a left, then take a right. See, here's a spider web, so we're gonna go straight, and don't bother about that path. Just go straight down this way. Go ahead and keep going, drive all the way down. As we can see, there's more spider webs, so just look for the spider webs on the ceiling, and we're gonna follow those. And then we're gonna take a left up here where we see this like 4th spider web, then keep going. We'll see another spider web on the ceiling, so go ahead and take a right, and then pretty much we just go straight down from here. And there we go. So here's a giant spider web, and now this is the spider's keep. So this is where we fight the boss. Also, once again, I never seen this boss spawn in naturally. The only way that I know how to spawn in this boss is by using the horn. So come in here, use the spider's horn, and then the boss will drop down from the ceiling, and then you can start fighting them. And then after you defeat the boss, you have a chance to get the shovel, which once again, I'm pretty sure you're more likely to get the shovel if you get MVP, which you get MVP by doing the most amount of damage. So try to do that. But anyway, now on to the other items. So for these other items, I got most of them at the combat guild over here, and basically they're really helpful. So basically we have the war shield right here that costs $10,000, and the special ability is brace for impact, and basically it applies a 50% chance that the boss's hits don't do damage. So it's super good. So if the boss hits you, there's a 50% chance that it won't even hit you, which is pretty OP. Also, I just realized that there's actually the Slayer shovel right here that costs 40,000, and looking at this, it actually does 80 boss damage itself. So I guess you don't even need to get this shovel right here. I mean, I would still recommend getting it because the control is higher. Like, let's take a look at the control real quick. The control is slightly higher. It's not like that much better, but I mean, the more control you have, the easier it is to defeat the boss. So if you want to, you can go ahead and get this shovel right here, which let me actually go ahead and buy real quick, and let's see if it can dig in rock. So there we go. I went ahead and bought it. Let me just double check that I can dig in rock, and no preferred ground dirt. So I don't think you can defeat the Multi-Monstrosity boss with this. I will go ahead and try it out for you, but I don't think you can. But once again, I recommend getting the war shield just because it blocks 50% of attacks. So even if you do accidentally get attacked, it will block it, which for most bosses, their attacks are super easy to dodge. But for some of the bosses, such as the Multi-Monstrosity, some of its attacks, such as the ram attack, is super hard to dodge. So that's why I recommend getting this. And then you can choose from either of these coils over here. So you can choose this one right here, which basically what these coils do is they occasionally heal you. So this one right here, it only costs $400, I think. Yeah, $400. But then you have the super regen coil over here that costs 25,000, and what it does is it occasionally heals you and also nearby players. So if you're trying to defeat a boss with other players, this will heal them as well, which can also be pretty helpful. To get this, you do have to receive 2,000 boss damage, so you have to take 2,000 damage from bosses before you can buy this. But it is super helpful because for bosses such as the multi-monstrosity, we do want other players to help us, otherwise we won't be able to defeat it. So the fact that this heals other players is super helpful because once they die, they'll be teleported to Foxtown and then they'll have to travel all the way back there, which can really slow them down, which you do not want. And that's also why I keep getting this plus 10 right here. So that's giving me plus 10 health every few seconds, which is super helpful. Like there we go, it just popped up again, plus 10 health. So I recommend getting the shield and also the regen coil. And then the last thing I have equipped, which you don't necessarily need, is the blazing gauntlet. This works the same as the magma boots. So as we can see, it's heat proof, which it means we don't take damage in Mount Charcoal, which is super helpful. But basically you get this by completing the journal for Mount Charcoal. So you still need to get the magma boots before you can get this, but either of them work. You basically just want like the heat proof skill just so you don't burn up in Mount Charcoal. But if you're not fighting the Mount Charcoal boss, then you don't need either of these and you could replace it with something else. Like for an example, if you wanted to, you could replace it with the vision goggles, and these allow you to preview the next digging bar. Also, by the way, I don't think these special skills stack. So if you have 2 war shields equipped, I don't think the 50% things are gonna stack on top of each other to make it 100%. So just keep that in mind. But anyway, I can't really think of another item to have equipped instead of like the magma boots or blazing gauntlet. Actually, instead of either of these items, if you don't need the magma boots or blazing gauntlets equipped, then you can just equip an item that gives you a bunch of control. But you can equip something such as Sydney's katana, which you basically get from completing the quest at the lighthouse. So you can equip this, which increases your control, because the bigger the control bar is, the easier it is to hit, meaning that you'll defeat bosses much faster. But anyway, let's head over to Mount Charcoal and let's go and try some of this stuff out, and let's see if the Slayer's shovel actually works inside there. And we're now in Mount Charcoal, so let's go and test out some of these items. So first off, let's go and test out the Slayer's shovel and let's see if this actually works in here. So let's go into the boss thing and let's go and see, and oh yes it does. So that's pretty surprising. So it looks like this does actually work in here. And wait, I need to lock it because I don't want to lose my streak right now. And there we go, awesome. But for an example, some other shovels such as the venomous shovel, this doesn't work in here. So if I go ahead and pull it out, I can go ahead and start digging, and as we can see, it's too rocky, so this does not work in here. So I guess instead of the spider shovel right here, you can just go and buy this one for 40,000 because you need $50,000 to spawn in the boss anyway. So instead of this one, you can go ahead and get this one. Either of them work. The spider shovel does have a bit more control, so if you want that, you can get it, but this one would work just fine, especially for beginning game players because you don't need to defeat any bosses to go ahead and get it. But that's actually not the most boss damage you can do in the game, because after you defeat the multi-monstrosity boss right here, you actually have a chance to get this shovel right here, the monstrositus shovel. So this one does 85 boss damage and also has more controls than both of those shovels, so this is the best one. Also, another way to increase boss damage is by getting the surrendering enchant. If you don't know how to enchant your shovel, then I recommend checking out one of my previous videos where I showed y'all how to enchant it. But anyway, this enchant increases your boss damage by 20%, so that is absolutely insane. So instead of 85 damage, we would do like 110, somewhere around there, or like 105. So that makes that really good. And then once again, for our gear right here, this is what I have equipped. And then if you have both of these equipped, you can actually just tank each boss attack. Like I tried that 2 times. Like 2 times I went ahead and defeated the multi-monstrosity, and I didn't move the whole time. I just stood here and then I dug the whole time, and I just tanked each attack, because every time he attacks you, it has a 50% of getting dodged because the war shield. And even if he does hit you, the super regen coil just heals your health back so much that it doesn't even matter, because you'll already be at 100% health before he does his next attack. But anyway, that is the best boss build. Once again, either the spider shovel or the slayer shovel, and then after you defeat the multi-monstrosity, the monstrositus shovel with the surrendering enchant, and then for your charms, the war shield, super regen coil, or just the basic regen coil. And if you're defeating the multi-monstrosity, then either the blazing gauntlets or the magma boots. But if you're not defeating either of those, then just equip something such as Sydney's katana that increases your control, just so the control bar is easier to hit. But anyway, that is the best boss build in Dig though. If this video helped you out, please make sure to smash that subscribe button, and I will see you all in the next video.